Godzilla is he's quite the man. He's a lizard. Or something. He's a monster.
Okay.
Now, whether you are a fan of Godzilla or not, since you clicked on this video, you have to watch it now. I'm so sorry. I'm going to be putting my love of Godzilla to use and making a tier list of every single Godzilla movie with my buddy Godzilla right here. He's gonna help me make some of the decisions. I got every single Godzilla movie here because, well, I've seen every single Godzilla movie. Now, not to brag. I'm not bragging. You mad at me? Godzilla's mad at me. So some things to say before we get into it. I'm a huge Godzilla fan. Everything that happens on this tier list is according to my opinion, and opinions are fun. You know, some people would say opinions are more fun than facts. I'm really sorry if I rank one of these movies and you're like, oh my gosh, that's my favorite movie of all time. I don't want you to like think that shouldn't be your favorite movie anymore. Or maybe I should. That would be great if I have that type of influence on you. Alright, I'm also going to be randomizing it, so I'm not going to be going like in tier order or even chronological order. I want to be surprised. I want to be tested. And this is going to be really hard today because I like a lot of the Godzilla movies. S tier is that means it's a good movie. Not just like a good Godzilla movie, but a good movie. You know, entertaining, well made. A tier, that's just a movie I love to watch. You know, it doesn't really have to be an amazing movie. I'm sure some movies I put in there will be like objectively not great, but I love to watch them, you know. B tier, that's for like the movies that I would say like they're not of my favorites, but they're ones that I watch, like they're entertaining. You know, the ones in A tier, they're a rank above. They're the ones that they get the love. C tier, I would say movies that maybe I've seen once or twice, maybe movies that I find boring. And then D tier is that'll just be the section for a bad movie. But yeah, that's the synopsis. S tier is anything that's either a religious text or is amazing, and D tier is anything that sucks. Destroy All Monsters. Kind of starting off strong here. So Destroy All Monsters is a movie where it's like all the monsters. But that movie was pretty great. It was also pretty hilarious. And then at the end, it's like an Avengers battle where they like stomp on King Ghidorah. Oh my god, yes, I forgot. Some of the really weird monsters show up in there. Like Gorosaurus. I think Gorosaurus like drop kicks King Ghidorah. That's gotta be A tier. Because that's the quintessential Godzilla. They're all fighting, they're stomping, and there's so many monsters to look at. Some of them look a little goofy, some of them look really goofy, but some of them look cool. Godzilla vs. Biollante, or Biolante, I don't know. I actually like this one. This one's a good one. Biollante is like basically just a giant plant. A scientist injects Godzilla DNA into a rose because he's like, if Godzilla can't die, then what if I make a rose that can't die? That would be romantic, right? The funny thing that happens is actually it turns into a giant plant monster. It has like a crocodile head. It's kind of funny actually, but it's a really cool looking character, and he's never showed up since. But honestly, I might have to put that in A tier. I'm just a fan of unique character designs, and I think that's a really cool one. I love plants. Godzilla vs. Mothra, which is different from Mothra vs. Godzilla. Mothra vs. Godzilla came out first. We'll get to that later. But Godzilla vs. Mothra, well, that one, it's actually, the whole Heisei series is honestly pretty cool. Heisei series meaning like the 90s. Now, I know this is like the third movie in a row to probably go into A tier, but hey, I like these movies, and it's got Mothra in it. Better than Mothra. It's got Mothra's evil twin, Batra. Batra looks, he's just like, he's mad, he's angry, and then Mothra's like, well, we gotta defeat him, and then... But that one's a good one. That one's entertaining. A tier for that one. And fun fact, another name for that is Godzilla and Mothra Battle for Earth. So, that's fun. Godzilla Tokyo SOS. Okay, so I remember watching this one a lot as a kid. I had it on DVD. It's a sequel to another movie, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. I think the reason I loved these so much as a kid is because of the Mechagodzilla design. I don't think it was because of the Godzilla design. I actually didn't love this Godzilla suit that much. I thought it was a little goofy. I think I'm gonna put that one in B tier because although I really do love that movie and I've watched it a lot of times and Mothra is in it, I mean, we love Mothra, it's not my favorite Mechagodzilla movie. And it's not really even my favorite Mechagodzilla. Oh. I kind of forgot about those. These are the only animated Godzilla movies. And this is the third one in the series, which has Ghidorah. I didn't love these movies. Even as like a diehard Godzilla fan, I was kind of like, what's going on here? And there was like, I don't know. It was so confusing some of the times, and I found myself zoning out. I think my favorite one of the three was the third one. So I'm gonna put that in C tier because King Ghidorah shows up, or whatever they call it in that movie. Aha! Okay, so here we have Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. Before this, there had been Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, and then Terror of Mechagodzilla, and then Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. So he's not versus him this time. He's against him. This is the only Godzilla movie where Godzilla's been against somebody. It's groundbreaking. But I think I'm going to put that just alongside the other one. I think those are solid B-tier movies. I just don't love the Godzilla design of them. But also, they don't even call him Mechagodzilla. In those movies, they call him like Kiryu? Isn't that the guy from the Yakuza games? Yeah, automatic A tier, if I'm being honest. Here's the thing. This movie, like, kind of made my dreams come true, like, my childhood dreams come true. I never thought that these characters, like Rodan and King Ghidorah and Mothra, would be brought to the screen with such, like, respect for the source material. It was amazing. The Godzilla soundtrack was in it. And honestly, this movie would be an S tier if it just had, like, maybe a better human storyline. It had Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things. There was this weird plot about like international terrorists, and then the mother of the main protagonist is like a complete villain, but they want you to sympathize with her. I don't know. But that's the only reason why it's not an S tier, because the human storyline, that could have been done better. But the Godzilla stuff, that's amazing. I mean, Rodan, they made Rodan cool. That's incredible. I didn't know you could do that. Godzilla versus Megaguirus. In this movie, it's like Godzilla versus mosquitoes, basically.
We're being attacked by giant dragonflies.
It's one of those villains where it evolves over the course of the film. So it starts out as like a Mega Nula or Mega Nulon. I don't know. But then it evolves into a Megaguirus, which is like the mother of all mosquitoes. It's literally like a mosquito. There's a lot of people who like really dislike this movie and think it's like a complete misfire. I think it's cool. I think it's an interesting take on a Godzilla monster, and it was interesting. And I do have a soft spot for interesting monsters. So B tier. It's definitely as good as the Mechagodzilla movies, in my opinion. Planet of the Monsters. That's the first one in the anime trilogy. No, yeah, I didn't like that one. That's going in D tier. That's the first one that's D tier. I'm sorry. The backstory was more interesting than the actual story. It's like Godzilla and other monsters destroyed the planet, and now the humans are in like a Wall-E ship in space, but they want to go back to Earth. I also don't love the main character of this trilogy. Godzilla versus Destroyer. Might have to put that in S tier, actually, and let me explain. It was the finale of the 90s series of Godzilla movies, and first of all, Godzilla is literally like on fire. Well, not literally, well, kind of. Insert photo of what's happening here. And the villain is one of those, it's kind of like Megaguirus where he evolves over time, except this one's a little bit more scary. He's like a weird crab crustacean. He's bigger than Godzilla at a certain point, and also Godzilla shows up within like the first 5 minutes. And there was baby Godzilla in it. Well, he was Godzilla Jr. in this one because he grew up. He was an adolescent. The human storyline was engaging. I thought it was good. I liked the main character. I didn't think anything was really boring about it. We're going backwards with the Mechagodzilla movies. So this is the one that came out after the old ones. See, the thing is, I do like this movie. I'm gonna put this in B tier, right? This is my least favorite Mechagodzilla design. I think he looks a little funny. He looks like he has like a hair. I don't know. He doesn't look menacing. And then like, oh, Super Mechagodzilla, which is basically when he just puts on a backpack. And also Rodan shows up in this movie. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that character. It's enjoyable though. And Baby Godzilla shows up in this one, I'm pretty sure. Ooh, Godzilla versus Gigan. I'm gonna put this one in B tier. I remember as a kid, this one was a slog to get through, to get to the monsters, but when you did, it was like really exciting. Gigan is like, I think he's my favorite Godzilla foe, like my favorite Godzilla monster, because he's just like a funny looking cyborg, genetic, engineered weapon. Like, what is that? I don't know what that is, but that's why I like it. He's cool, and he's even cooler when he shows up in a future movie. This movie also has King Ghidorah in it. It has Anguirus in it. Apparently in America at one point this movie was originally called Godzilla on Monster Island. The movie does not take place on Monster Island. There's one portion of the movie that does. So I suppose it's Godzilla on Monster Island for the first minute and a half. Mothra versus Godzilla, S tier. This is actually, I think, the first Godzilla movie I ever saw. I love this movie. If I want to show somebody like a classic Godzilla movie, I will show them this movie first. This has everything you'd want. Godzilla, he comes out of the sand. Like, what? Because of erosion or something. Because there was a typhoon. And there's a typhoon. That was the beginning of the movie. And then there's a giant egg. There's like these evil businessmen. The human plotline is actually pretty interesting and pretty cool. And you can't deny that Mothra is iconic. And this is the first time that Mothra and Godzilla meet. But on top of that, I just think Godzilla looks good in this movie. I think this is one of the best suits of this era. Do you miss Mothra? This is the original Godzilla movie. And henceforth, it's going in S tier. This is my least favorite of the anime trilogy. I don't even know if I remember the plot of this. They go to some city. I think Mechagodzilla is in it. It is the weirdest design for Mechagodzilla I've ever seen. We're gonna leave that one there. Alright, so I think we gotta bring this one to A tier. This movie's just rad, it's hilarious, and I feel like they lean into that. They bring Kong in with a helicopter, and then there's a scene where King Kong just like shoves a tree down Godzilla's throat. They also remade this shot for the 2021 version. I'm not joking. Adding to the comedy, the Godzilla suit in this movie I think just looks really goofy. But I think this is one of the few movies where I like that, and I think it adds to the story. Invasion of Astro Monster. Okay, so I do like this movie. First of all, this is the only movie where Godzilla has a fight in space, and also Godzilla does like a funny looking dancey dance, like a literal dancey dance. Like he starts dancing, like he's jumping up and down. He's like, holy crap, I won this battle. What planet am I on? And Rodan in here too. I like this movie. Also, the alien storyline is like hilarious. This one, it's gonna go in A tier. It has the most Godzilla monsters of any Godzilla movie. It's like the end game of Godzilla. And I would put it in S tier if the plot wasn't a little bonkers off the wall.
You'd hit a woman.
Yeah.
This movie's sort of like The Matrix in some scenes, and there's like superhumans, and then like there's humans fighting, and then I don't know. I love this movie for all the monsters, but the reason it's not an S tier is because the plot sometimes overtakes that, and it's like, what are we gonna do? And that's like 5 minutes, and then they cut to a scene of Godzilla like whacking a monster into a building, and that's like 30 seconds. But this movie was great. It blew my mind when I first saw it. I kid you not, this movie's name is Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack. Like, why'd they name it that? Entertainment value, I just love watching this one. I think this one's a blast. I think Godzilla looks really cool in this one. And so does King Ghidorah. This is actually the only movie where King Ghidorah is like a good guy. This movie also has Baragon, which is a monster that kind of looks like my dog Maggie. I like this movie. I think this is a good one. I really love this movie. I was following the production of this movie since it was ever first announced to seeing it in theaters, and it was like a dream come true seeing, you know, the real Godzilla. Hollywood did make a Godzilla movie prior to this, and we'll get to that. This is the time we got it right, and it's just a great movie. I like the human storyline in this movie. I thought it was done well. They treated Godzilla as if this was like an actual disaster. I'm gonna put this one in S tier. Okay, so we go from the 2014 American Godzilla movie, which was the second one we made, to the first one we made. We're gonna put this in D tier. And this is kind of a special one. I wouldn't say this is a terrible movie. I wouldn't even say this is not entertaining. This movie is entertaining. It's just that, why did you buy the rights to Godzilla and then turn him into an iguana? I don't know, they like stripped away like a lot of the things that made Godzilla amazing. Like, he doesn't even have atomic breath in this movie. He's not fighting another monster, which is fine if he's not fighting another monster, but then you gotta make Godzilla himself great, which he's not. They like lose him a lot of the times in the movie. Like, he hides. Like, how can Godzilla hide? And also, why is he hiding? In Godzilla Final Wars, Godzilla literally meets the American Godzilla from 1998. They call him Zilla, and he kills him in 30 seconds. This might be a controversial opinion, but I think Godzilla Raids Again is C tier, and the reason this is controversial is because this is actually the second Godzilla movie ever, but I don't love it. It's the first movie where Godzilla faces off against a new monster. I mean, that's cool, and I do like Anguirus, but I don't love Anguirus enough to have him be a main antagonist. And also, I just don't think it visually looked as good. Godzilla in the movie just looks goofy. I don't know what's going on with him in that one. In America, this movie was called Gigantus the Fire Monster. How did, like, what went on there? Ebera, Horror of the Deep. It's basically Godzilla versus a giant lobster. And it's like, I love lobsters. Lobsters are great. You know, fighting a giant lobster, that's innovative in the water. But this movie takes like an hour and 10 minutes just to get to the part where you actually see Godzilla. This movie originally wasn't even supposed to have Godzilla in it. He's just fighting a lobster in the water. At one point, they're playing volleyball, which is kind of funny. I keep calling it the lobster. His name is Ebera, or Ebera. I'm actually gonna have to put in C tier. Not a huge fan of this one. In America, they named this movie Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, which I will say is more interesting. Yeah, that's gonna go in C tier, I think. The design of Manila, Godzilla's son, like, who did that? Who thought that was a good idea? My favorite part of this movie is Godzilla fighting Kamacuras and the spider monsters. Kind of like Godzilla just literally smacking these bugs into the ground. I think it would be more fun if Godzilla didn't have like the worst design in this movie. I think this is the worst Godzilla design they've ever had in a movie. This is gonna go in B tier, actually. So the reason this is in B tier and not A tier with Godzilla King of the Monsters, I guess the human storyline in this one, it just felt even more dumb to me. Like, this one introduces a whole, like, hollow earth thing. Godzilla, like, beams his atomic breath to the center of the earth, where Kong and our main characters already are. Like, this is a Journey to the Center of the Earth movie as well. And then also in this movie, Mechagodzilla just shows up. I think they should have built it up more, because I think Mechagodzilla just deserves more than this. Fatality. Shin Godzilla. They were going for a really creepy look. I think this was a really interesting take on Godzilla. The whole movie they're in, like, in and out of meetings, because that's the whole point. Like, they're getting nothing done. They're just in meetings talking about what they're gonna get done. I really like the political commentary in this movie, though, albeit the way they go about it sometimes can be a little boring. So I'm gonna put this one in A tier. Godzilla 2000 came out in 1999. I would put this movie in A tier just because I like the villain. I like the climax where he literally tries to eat Godzilla. Even though the fight's like short, I think it's cool. We're continuing the trend of putting this in A tier because this is the first movie where Mechagodzilla is featured, and Mechagodzilla is just so cool. I mean, he's a robot Godzilla. You don't like him? I like Mechagodzilla more as a antagonist. I think that's more interesting. You know, it starts off with like just a weird looking Godzilla, and you're like, is that Godzilla? And then he's like, it's not Godzilla, and then it's like, oh, it's Mechagodzilla, and then there's this other monster called King Caesar, but I kind of love him just because he looks like a giant walking dog. And overall, I just think this is a good movie. This might be another controversial decision. I'm gonna put this in C tier. I did not love this movie. This was the first movie in a long time that it only featured Godzilla. There was no other monsters. I didn't find it super interesting, but also I didn't love the Godzilla suit for being like a reboot of Godzilla. I was like, I'm gonna put this one in. I'm putting a lot of things in A tier. Maybe this is why I'm a Godzilla fan. Overall, I just think this movie's fun. Like, it's about like time travel.
Have we time warped yet?
No, not yet.
Well, where are we then?
And then there's like a Godzillasaurus. It has to do with like World War II. At a certain point, you think to yourself like, holy crap, what's going on?
Hey! Got him!
Take that, you dinosaur.
It's kind of exciting. And then Mecha King Ghidorah is in it. Like, what? As opposed to Destroy All Monsters, this movie is called All Monsters Attack. In America, sometimes they call it Godzilla's Revenge, which is what I knew it as. This might be my most controversial opinion of the whole video. You know, not even in B tier, A tier. We're gonna do A tier for Godzilla's Revenge. For context, all the people who don't know a ton about Godzilla, this is commonly known as like the lowest rated Godzilla movie by far. It's about like a kid who almost envisions himself to be on Monster Island and envisions himself seeing Godzilla, and a large portion of the movie is made up of stock footage from other movies, including Son of Godzilla and Ebirah Horror of the Deep. This movie just takes the best parts of those movies, shoves it into this movie, and then it's like, cool, I don't even have to watch the other ones. I like the message of this movie. I think having a not bullying message in a Godzilla movie was actually a really innovative idea, and I like the way they went about it, and I liked the main character kid in it. This movie was made to draw kids into the series. At least it worked. Godzilla vs. Megalon. Here's the thing, there are some things I don't like about this movie. It was, I think, a lower budget, so like, I just think it's really funny. And there's two characters in this movie that never show up in any other movies, which I think is notable, so you have to give this movie props. I mean, Megalon's pretty cool. He's kind of like Gigan, which is funny. I guess that's why Gigan is in this movie. I'm gonna put that one in B tier. For Terror of Mechagodzilla, I feel like I'm gonna put that in B tier. I like that one less than Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Adds a new monster, which is Titanosaurus. But I kind of find Titanosaurus a little annoying. His laugh is like, I don't know how I feel about it. And also, there wasn't much terror. I'm gonna put this movie in A tier. Now, a lot of people don't like this movie, but I love this movie just because there's some psychedelic stuff that happens in this movie, but also the monster itself is just kind of crazy. Another name for this movie is Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster, but Godzilla vs. Hedorah or Hydra or whatever. This one is about pollution and like stop polluting. This movie honestly makes me want to stop polluting. Like if it creates anything like this monster here, I will be so terrified. It's meant to gross you out because it's meant to represent pollution and polluting our earth. You should be disgusted by that. Ew! Ew! Also, Godzilla flies in this movie. I do think Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster, and Monster Zero movie, or Invasion of Astro Monster, they're very similar, but I like the Astro Monster one more. I think it's more interesting. So I'm gonna put this one actually in B tier. King Ghidorah's better showcase than every other movie after this. With Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster, I think it was a great foundation they built on. I mean, King Ghidorah is amazing. I'm gonna put this one in B tier as well. I do like this movie, but I think it's a little goofy. I don't necessarily love the name they chose. I like the plot though. I like the concept of Godzilla cells getting out into space and then them mutating and stuff. And also there's Mogira. It's a reference to another Toho movie, The Mysterians, I think. So it's like Mechagodzilla, except not. He's just a mecha. And the final one, I can't believe we're ending on this actually, it's kind of cool. Godzilla -1. S tier, bro. S tier. I mean, Godzilla was just, he was throwing things, he was destroying things, he was killing things. Look, I don't know if it's too soon to say something like this, but I think Godzilla -1 is like the best Godzilla movie ever made. Even if you take Godzilla away, this storyline was pretty good, like the human storyline. And that's insane. So anyway, this is my tier list for the Godzilla movies. If you don't agree with me, I'll send you my address. We can fight if you want. We can tussle it out. I'm not too big into that, but he is. If you want me to talk more about Godzilla stuff, then just let me know, because I always have more to talk about. Goodbye, everybody.